Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we move on to the next chapter of our curriculum, which is called incomplete verbs, which is called fi'l naqisun. So fi'l naqis is what we know as an incomplete sentence. So in meaning, when we're talking about in its meaning by themselves, so they're an incomplete sentence. So they actually considered a noun sentence, not a verb sentence. So when we analyze the grammar, we treat it as a noun sentence, even though it is a verb. But because it's an incomplete verb, we treat it as a noun sentence and not as a verb sentence. Meaning, so if any sentence starts with a fi'l naqis, even though it's a fi'l, we still consider that a noun sentence. And this is also known as Ghana and its sisters, fi'l naqis, because Ghana is the main one, main fi'l naqis. So there's some incomplete verbs of fi'l naqis in this table, common ones. So if we start with the past tense, that's Ghana, which means it was, or even he was. With a present tense fi'l, it indicates a continuous past tense action. So meaning if we had Ghana, then followed by a present tense fi'l, this indicates a continuous past tense action. So something that happened in the past and is continuing to happen in the future. But when we see Ghana with a past tense fi'l straight after it, it indicates a single past event. So the present future tense of Ghana is yakunu, which means it is. The next one is asbaha, which is the past tense, and this means to become. And the present meaning he became, to become, general meaning. And the present tense is yusbihu, which means became. So he became, or it became. The next one is the past tense version is zalla, which means he or it remained. And the present tense or present/future tense is yazallu, which means he remains. And the next one, the past tense version is mazala, which means it or he continued. Now if the ma is removed, then zala just means to desist or to stop. But with the ma, it means to not stop or to not desist, which means to continue. That's why the ma is there. So the ma acts like a negation, because zala actually means to stop or to desist. But if you have the ma, it means not to stop, which means to continue. That's why ma zala means he continued or it continued. And the present future tense would be ma yazalu, which means he continues or it continues. And the next one, the past tense is ma dama, which means as long as. And the past tense is translated in the present tense. That's why there's no present tense form, because this is a past tense fi'l, but it's translated as a present tense, ma dama, which means as long as. And the next one is laysa, which is past tense, which means he is not or it is not. And it's a past tense translated in the present tense, so he is not or it is not. So common incomplete verbs or fi'l naqis are considered, like we said earlier, a noun sentence. And if you remember, a noun sentence is made up of a mubtada, is made up of a khabar, and is made up of a muta'alliq bil khabar. So the second thing, if we concentrate on that, which is the khabar, this normally in noun sentences, if you remember, the khabar is in rafa status. But in fi'l naqis, the khabar actually becomes in nasab status. So in any incomplete or naqis fi'l, the khabar is always nasab. It's not rafa, which is traditionally for noun sentences is rafa. And the muta'alliq bil abar, the normal rules like a normal noun sentence apply. So meaning the muta'alliq bil khabar is always a harf of jar fragment or any special mudaf of time and place, which is called a zarf. So if you see a zarf or a harf of jar fragment, then that's called the muta'alliq bil khabar. So the mubtada is made up of two things. The first is the actual fi'l naqis, which is the incomplete verb, and the ism that is connected to the fi'l naqis. So the rules of the ism that is connected to the fi'l naqis is same as the rules which apply to the dua with a fi'l. So if you remember, there's two types of ism that is connected to the fi'l naqis. One is the outside ism. So the ism must come after the fi'l naqis. It must be rafa in status, and the fi'l naqis must be in the huwa or hiya version, which matches with the fi'l naqis gender. So it's same rule as an outside dua. So the ism must come after the fi'l naqis. It must be rafa in status, and the fi'l itself, the fi'l naqis, must be in huwa or hiya version, and that whatever version it is, it has to match the gender of the ism. So inside dua, or the inside ism, what we call it as, is a pronoun which appears inside the fi'l naqis, which matches the pronoun. So we can see the chart below, or the charts below, to see what we mean. So this is the kana, the fi'l naqis table for past and present tense together. It's the kana table. So if we start with huwa, so the past tense is kana, which means he was. The present tense is yakunu, which means he is. So we put both the past and the present tense, first the past and then the present tense underneath it. So for huma, the past is kana, so both of them were, and the present is yakunani, which is both of them are. So hum version, which means they, is kanu, which means they were, and the present is yakununa, which is they are. And then the hiya, which is she, the past is kanat, which means she was or it was, and the present is the kunu, she is or it is. And huma, the past tense is kanata, both of them were, meaning both of them female, and the present is to takunani, so both of them are. And hunna, which means they, women, the past tense is kunna, so they, women were, and the present is ya kunna, which is they, women are. So anta is you, masculine, so the past would be past tense would be kunta, meaning you were, and the present is takunu, meaning you are, which is, you remember, it matches the hiya version, which is hiya is takunu as well. But we look at context and meaning of the sentence in order to determine which one it is. So is it referring to, if the takunu is referring to the hiya version or the anta version. So antuma, past is kuntuma, so you two were, and the present is takunani, you two are. And antum, the past is kuntum, all of you were, which include masculine and female, a group of masculine and female. And the present is takununa, all of you are. Anti, which is a female version of you. Past is kunti, which means you were, woman. And the present is takunina, which means you, woman, are. And antuma, again, is the same as the masculine version. Kuntuma, you two were, women. And the present is takunani, you two women are. And then antunna, all of you women. The past is kuntunna, and the present is takunna, which is all of you women are. And ana, which is meaning I, the past is kuntu, which means I was, and the present is akunu, I am. And nahnu, which is means we. Kunna is we were, and the present tense kunna is past, and then the present is nakunu, we are. So it's important to memorize this chart because kana is used a lot in the Quran and in other Arabic texts as well. So now, as a second to last letter harakat is a sukoon. The letter wa with the sukoon harakat is removed for ease of speech. So yeah, so in some cases we notice that. So if in some cases of this chart, the harakat, as the second to last harakat is a sukoon, the letter wa with the sukoon, the wa with the sukoon harakat is removed for ease of speech. So in some cases it's removed. And when making a fi'l light or lightest, the noon at the end is only dropped if it is part of an ending combination, otherwise it is kept. So for example, if we look at the anta, version. The normal version is takunu, which is the same as the hiya version as well, if you remember. So the noon at the end is not part of the ending combination, so it is not dropped to make it light or lightest. Because even though a wa and a noon can come as an ending combination, but we have to be careful to actually appreciate it, look at the word, and to see that is it part of the ending combination, because the wa and the noon ending combination comes in the plural, but this isn't plural. Anta is singular, it's not plural. So that's why we have to be careful when we look at it. We can't just see the wa and the noon and automatically assume that that's an ending combination, because ending combination comes in plurals or dual. It doesn't come in singular. So that's why when we see anta, which is singular, we automatically know that that wa and the noon on the takunu is not an ending combination, it's actually part of the word. So therefore, the light version of takunu would be that we would simply change the dhamma to a fatha, which becomes takuna. And the lightest version, we would just put a sukoon on the noon. We replace the dhamma with a sukoon. But if you notice that if we do that, then the wa, which is the second to last letter, has a sukoon, and then the noon at the end has a sukoon. So it becomes awkward in terms of saying it. Therefore, the wa is dropped, which we mentioned before. The wa is dropped, so it just becomes takun. Otherwise, it's hard to pronounce takun. So they just drop the wa to say takun, which is the lightest version. And here, antum, which is the normal version, so it be takununa. Now, because we're talking about antum, which means all of you, which is plural, the wa and the noon here is an ending combination. It's an ending combination. Therefore, if you want to make takununa light or lightest, we simply drop the noon. So the light version of antum would be takunu, and the lightest version would be takunu as well. So moving on to a commanding chart example for yakunu, which is the present tense. Because remember, whenever we make the commanding chart or even the forbidden, we look at the present tense and do it from there. So because we're commanding, we only need the second person, because you can't command an absent person, you don't command yourself. So when we look at anta, takunu is the normal version of anta, and the commanding form becomes kun. So if you remember, we drop the ta, so it'd be kunu, and then we make the last letter into a sukoon. So it become takun, and like I said, because the second to last letter wa has a sukoon on it as well, it becomes awkward to say. So we just drop the wa, so it becomes kun. And remember, we don't need to put an extra alif on it. You only, after removing the first letter ta, you only put an alif if the new first letter has a sukoon. Then you put an alif on it. But if you look at the kaf, it doesn't have a sukoon, it has a dhamma on it. So we don't need to put an extra alif. All we have to do is remove the ta and make the last letter sukoon. But in this case, because of the wa being a sukoon as well, the second to last letter, because it doesn't flow when you speak, it's hard to pronounce. We drop the wa, so it just simply becomes kun, which means you be. And the antuma is the ku, nani is the original antuma version, and the commanding form, again, you just drop the ta at the start, and then because it's an ending combination alif noon, we make it lighter, so we get rid of the noon at the end, and then it just becomes ku na, you to be. And the kununa is the normal version of antum, and the commanding form, we drop the ta first, and because obviously the new first letter has a dhamma on it, we don't need to put an alif, so that's okay. And then the ending combination wa noon, if you want to make it into the lightest version, which we need to do in commanding form, then we drop the noon, and then we end up with kunu, which means all of you be. And then anti, which means you feminine, again it's taku nina is the normal version, and the commanding, we just get rid of the ta, we don't need to put an extra alif, because the new first letter has a sukoon on it. It doesn't have it has a dhamma on it. It doesn't have a sukoon. If it had a sukoon, then we put the alif at the start. And it has any combination of ya and noon, then we get rid of the noon. But again, it becomes weird because the last letter has a ya. So to make it more smoother, we get rid of both. We drop the noon automatically to make it lightest, but then the last letter has a ya with a sukoon. So what they do is they drop that ya as well. So it just becomes kuni. And then the antuma is the normal version is the kunani. And then in order to make it the command, it'll be kuna, because you drop the ta, ending combination, alif noon, get rid of the noon to make it in the lightest form. So you're left with kuna. And then the antunna version is the kunna, is the normal version. And the commanding form, you just drop the ta. And remember the lightest version of antunna or tunna, whether it's hunna, or antunna, whether it's light or lightest version, it doesn't change. So that's why it remains as, it just becomes kunna. All of you women, be. So if we look at the forbidding chart of yakunu, again only second person is needed. So if we start with anta, so the normal version is the kunu, and the forbidding form, remember we just all we have to do is make the kunu in the lightest form. So we make instead of the noon having a dhamma, we put a sukoon on it. But because the second to last letter wa also has a sukoon, it doesn't sound correct. So we drop the wa, so it becomes takun, and then we put a la at the start because it's forbidding, so it becomes la takun. You don't be. And then antuma is takunani. Again, we put it in the lightest form by dropping the alif noon combination at the end, so we get rid of the noon. And then we put a la at the front, so it becomes la takuna. You too, don't be. And then the antum version, takununa, you simply make it in the lightest version because it's ending combination wa and noon. You get rid of the noon at the end, put the la at the front, la takunu. All of you don't be. And then the anti, which is you feminine, so the original is taku nina, and then the forbidding form, what we do is we make it in the lightest form. So instead of dropping just the noon at the end, if we drop only the you, because the ending combination is ya and noon, but to make it lightest we drop the noon. But because the ya has a sukoon on it, to end like that doesn't sound right, so they drop the ya with the sukoon as well. So it just becomes, and then put the lam at the front, it becomes la takuni. And then antuma, takunani is the original. And then in order to make it lightest, you get rid of the noon. And then put lam at the front, so it becomes la takuna. You too, don't be, feminine. And then antunna, then again, remember takunna is normal version, and even if you put in the lightest version, it's still takunna, or even in the light version, it's still takunna, because khunna and antunna, they don't change in the light or lightest version, so we just simply put the la in front of it, so it becomes la takunna. All of you women, don't be. So next, fi'l naqis, what we look at is zalla, which means he remained, or to remain. So this table below shows the past and present tense forms together. So first the past and then the present underneath it, just like the Kana table before. So huwa, the past would be zalla, which means he or it remained, and the present tense is ya dhalla, ya dhallu, which means he remains, and the huma past tense is dhalla, and the present tense for huma would be ya dhallani. Both of them remain. The past tense for hum, which means they, would be dhallu, which means they remained, and the present tense would be ya dhalluna, which means they remain. So hiya, which means she, the past tense will be dhallat, which means she remained, and the present tense version will be tadhallu, which means she remains. Huma, the past tense is, this is feminine huma version. Dhallata, both of them remained, meaning feminine women, and the present tense will be dhallani, both of them women remain. And the hunna version, which means they women, the past tense will be dhallilna, so they women remained, and the present tense will be yadlalna, meaning they women remain. And the anta version, the past tense is dhalilta, which means you remained, and the present tense is the same as the hiya, if you remember, is dhallu, you remain. And the past tense for antuma, both of you, masculine, will be dhaliltuma, you two remained, and the present tense will be tadhallani, you two remain. And then antum, which means all of you, which includes masculine and feminine, the past tense will be dhaliltum, all of you remained, and the present tense will be tadhalluna, which means all of you remain. And the anti, which means you feminine, the past tense is tadhallilti, you woman remained, and the present tense will be tadhallina, you woman remain. Antuma, past is dhaliltuma, you two remain for feminine, and the present will be tadhallani, so you two remain women. And then antunna, the past tense will be dhaliltunna, so all of you women remained, and the present tense will be tadhlalna, all of you women remain. And then the ana, the past tense will be dhaliltu, which means I remained, and the present tense will be adhallu, which means I remain. And nahnu, which is the we version, the past tense will be dhalilna, we remained, and the present tense will be nadhallu, which means we remain. So the next fi'l naqis is mazala. So we have a chart here, or a table here for both the past and the present tense. So huwa, the past tense is mazala, he continued or it continued, and the present tense is ma yazalu, he continues or it continues. And huma, the past is mazala, both of them continued, and the present tense is ma yazalani, so both of them continue. Hum, which means they, and it represents both a group of females and males. So past tense is mazalu, they continue. The present tense is ma yazaluna, they continue. Hiya, which is the she version, the past tense is mazalat, which means she continued, and the present tense is matazalu, so she continues, or it continues. The huma, the past tense is mazalata, so both of them continued, and this is feminine, and the present tense is matazalani, so both of them continue. The hunna version, the past tense is mazilna, so they women continued, and the present tense is ma yazalna, they women continue. And the anta, which means you masculine, the past tense is mazilta, which means you continued, and the present tense is matazalu, which means you continue, for a masculine man. So antuma, the past is maziltuma, you two continued, and the present tense is matazalani, you two male continue. And antum, which means all of you, which includes a group of female and males. Maziltum is the past tense, all of you continued. The present tense is matazaluna, all of you continue. The anti, which means you feminine, the past tense is mazilti, so you woman continued, and the present tense is matazalina, so you woman continue. And antuma is the same for feminine and masculine, is the same as per usual. The past is maziltuma, you two continued, meaning women, and the present is matazalani, you two continue, meaning women. And antunna, which means all of you women. The present tense is maziltunna, all of you women continued, and the present so the past tense is maziltunna, so all of you women continued, and the present tense is matazalna, so all of you women continue. And then ana, the past tense is maziltu, which means I continued, and the present tense is ma'azalu, I continue. And nahnu, which is the we version, the past is mazilna, we continued, and the present tense is ma nazalu, we continue. And just to remember, as we mentioned earlier, if the ma is removed, it means the fi'l zala actually means to stop or to desist, but with the ma it means to not stop or to not desist, which means to continue. And the next fi'l naqis is ma dama, which means as long as, and if you remember that it's a past tense fi'l, but it translates into the present tense. So in this table we only need to show the past tense. So the past tense for huwa is ma dama, which means as long as he or as long as it. For huma is ma dama, as long as both of them, because it translates into the present tense or the future tense. And hum, it's ma damu, as long as they. Here, which is she, the past tense is ma damat, as long as she or it. And huma, the past is ma damata, as long as both of them. And then hunna, the past is ma dumna, so as long as they, meaning women. And anta, meaning masculine, you, the past is ma dumta, as long as you, man. And antuma is, the past is ma dumtuma, as long as you two. Then antum, which means all of you, includes a group of males and females. So past ma dumtum, as long as you all are, as long as all of you. Then anti, which is the you feminine version, the past tense is ma dumti, as long as you, woman. And antuma, same as the masculine, is ma dumtuma, as long as you two women. And then antunna, the past is ma dumtunna, as long as all of you women. And ana, which means I, the past is ma dumtu, as long as I. And nahnu, which is the we version, the past is ma dumna, as long as we. So the next fi'l naqis is asbahu, which means to become. So we have the past tense and the present tense in this table, starting with huwa. The past tense is asbahu, which means he became or it became, and the present tense is yusbihu, he or it is becoming. The huma, the past tense is asbaha, both of them became, and the present tense is yusbihani, both of them are becoming. Hum, which means they, includes a group of males and females. The past tense is asbahu, they became. The present tense is yusbihuna, they are becoming. Hiya, which is the she version, so the past tense is asbahat, she became or it became, and the present tense is tusbihu, she is or it is becoming. And the huma, the past tense is asbahata, both of them became, meaning feminine. And present tense tusbihani, both of them are becoming, meaning women. And the hunna is a group of women, so they women. The past tense is asba'na, so they women became, and the present tense is yusbitna, so they women are becoming. And anta is you, masculine, so the past tense will be asbata, you became, which is a male. And the present tense is tusbihu, which is the same thing as same one as here. If you remember, the anta and the here in the present tense looks the same, but we determine which one it actually is through context of studying the actual sentence. So tusbihu, you are becoming, a masculine man. And antuma, past will be asbatuma, you two became, and the present will be tusbihani, you two are becoming. And antum refers to a group, meaning all of you, a group of men and women. Past tense will be asbatum, all of you became, and the present tense will be tusbihuna, all of you are becoming. And anti, which is the female version of you, so past is asbati, you woman became. The present tense will be tusbihina, you are becoming a woman. And antuma, the past tense, again is the same as the masculine version, asbatuma, you two became women, and the present tense is tusbihani, you two are becoming women. And then antunna, which is a past tense. Past tense is would be asbatunna, all of you women became, and the present tense will be tusbitna, so all of you women are becoming. And then we have ana, which is the I version, so the past tense will be asbatu, I became, and the present tense will be usbithu, I am becoming, and then nahnu, the past tense will be asbahna, we became, and the present tense will be nusbihu, we are becoming. So the next fi'l naqis is laysa. So if you remember, laysa, it means he is not, and it's translated in the present tense. So that's why this chart only shows the past tense. So huwa version is laysa, which means he or it is not, and the huma version is laysa, both of them are not, and hum, which means they version laysu, they are not, hiya, which is she version laysat, she or it is not, and huma is laysata, meaning feminine, both of them females are not, and the hunna version is meaning they women are lasna, they are not. So if you remember, whenever we do past tense, when we get to hunna version and onwards, the last letter out of the three letters, so in this case is the lam, the ya and the sin, it takes a sukoon. So we have a sukoon on the sin, which you can see, but the issue is with laysa, you'll have, if we put a sukoon on the sin, then there's already a sukoon on the ya, so it's hard to pronounce two sukoons in a row, so that therefore the ya is dropped and you're left only with las. And then from then on, that sin, per usual, the last letter from hunna onwards gets a sukoon, so that sin will always have a sukoon for the rest of the table. So hunna is lasna, they are not, meaning women. Anta, which means you. Lasta, you are not. And antuma is lastuma, you two are not. And then antum, which means all of you. Lastum, all of you are not. Anti, which is the female version of you. Lasti, you are not a woman. And antuma is the same as the masculine antuma. Lastuma, you two women are not. And antunna, which means all of you women are not, is lastunna. And the ana, I version, is lastu, which means I am not. And nahnu, which is the we version, is lasna, we are not. And so if we look at complex sentence structure, so in a normal noun sentence, the habad can be a noun or a verb sentence, if you remember that from before. In a fi'l naqis noun sentence, the habad can only be a verb sentence, so it won't be a noun sentence. So in a present fi'l which comes after kana, it can mean was or were doing something or used to do something. So an example would be, so if you had a kana which is followed by a present tense fi'l, so an example would be I used to work, or it could mean I was working. So the context of the sentence is used to identify which is the correct meaning. Also the mubtada and the khabar match in gender and number. When we have a kana followed by a present followed by a fi'l, so the gender and the number will match between the two. The pronoun inside the mubtada, the kana, will match the pronoun inside the present fi'l which comes after it as well. So kana usually comes with a present future tense fi'l. It really comes with a past tense. So whenever we see kana, which remember means he was or it was, it usually comes with a present tense fi'l. Because even though it's a present tense, the kana, because of the kana, it's translated into the past. Because the kana means he was or it was. So even if we put a present tense straight after the kana, it still translates into the past because of the kana. So if the kana comes before the past tense, it implies an event which occurred a long time ago and it occurred once. So if you see kana, then a past tense fi'l, then it means the event occurred a long time ago and it occurred once. But if you see kana and then you see a present tense fi'l straight after it, then this implies a continuous past tense action. So that means an action that happened in the past, but it's still continuing now. So an example would be kunna natahaddathu, which means we were talking. So a noun sentence, this is a noun sentence even though it's a fi'l naqis, but because it starts with a fi'l naqis, it's considered a noun sentence, not a verb sentence. So it's a noun sentence because of the kana. And the kunna is the mubtada. So the kana acts as the mubtada. So the kunna is the mubtada, which and the pronoun inside it, if you remember from the chart, is the nahnu version. So kunna is the nahnu version, which means we. And then natahaddathu is the khabar of kana. And remember, the khabar is always, even though natahaddathu is a present tense fi'l, then the khabar is always the khabar of a kana sentence and its sisters, or any fi'l naqis. The khabar is always nasab in status, unlike a normal noun sentence where the khabar is always rafa. So it's nasab in status. So the present tense fi'l is actually nasab status. So we'd say it's fi, even though it doesn't look like it. So we would say fi mahali nasab because it's the khabar of kana. So the pronoun inside the present tense fi'l natahaddathu is actually nahnu. So again, it's we, which matches the same pronoun as kunna. So we notice that the mubtada, the pronoun is nahnu, and the present tense fi'l, the pronoun is nahnu. So both of them match. So the khabar is a present tense fi'l and a verb sentence by itself, because natahaddathu is a khabar, but because it's a present tense fi'l, it's actually a verb sentence by itself as well. So moving on to negating kana sentences. So it's negated in the same way as a verb sentence, even though it's treated as a noun sentence. So past negation, so we use ma, is used with past tense form, which is kana. Or if you want to negate, otherwise we use lam, which means did not, and it's used with the present tense form yakunu, and it makes it in the lightest form. So remember, lam, which means did not, is one of those words that makes a present tense into the lightest form. And if you want to change yakunu into the lightest form, it becomes yakun. That's because if you want to change yakunu into the lightest version, bear in mind, even though there's a wa and the noon at the end, that's not an ending combination, it's part of the word. And that's given away the fact that it's a singular, it's not a plural, which usually has ending combinations. So we would just change the dhamma on the noon into a sukoon. But because the noon would have a sukoon and the wa before it has a sukoon as well, you can't really pronounce that. So the wa is dropped, so it just becomes yakun when it's used with lam, because that's a word that makes a present tense into the lightest form. So when we're negating in the present tense, then we can use la or ma, and both are used with the present tense form yakunu. And if you want to negate into the future, then we use lan, which means will not, and it's always used with the present tense form yakunu. And if you remember, lan is one of those words that when it comes with if it comes before the present tense, it makes the present tense into the light version. And so the yakunu would become yakuna. So the noon, which has a dhamma on it, just takes a fatha, so it becomes yakuna. So as per usual, at the end of every chapter, we always advise you to take a look at the vocabulary list chapter at the end of this curriculum and this book. And ideally, at the end of every session, this book or curriculum is studied, so that your Arabic grammar knowledge increases with your vocab knowledge, inshallah.